The rise of the Republic also gave rise to a certain level of civility within the galaxy. Although different planets had different standards, most agreed on a few basic tenets for how to treat each other. You know, don't invade and mercilessly kill others, don't participate in illegal activity, just, normal things that you shouldn't do if you're not an evil species. Despite the reign of the Republic, plenty of alien species carried on with their cruel ways. So today, I thought we'd take a look at 7 of the most evil alien species in the galaxy. Starting in at number 7, we have Dathomirians. Dathomirians, or Dathomirian Zabraks, were infamous for their mastery of the dark side. Showing a natural affinity for the Force, the Dathomirians had their own cults centered around it, separate from the teachings of the Sith and Jedi. Although it was rumored that an early Jedi once taught the ways of the Force to the female Dathomirians on the planet. The Night Sisters and Night Brothers, as they were called, lived in different villages. The Night Sisters were the more powerful of the two, perhaps because they deliberately tried to rule over the male Night Brothers and kept knowledge of their dark side magics away from them. But 2 of the Night Brothers would learn the dark sides of the Force. Initially, Darth Maul became an apprentice to Palpatine, and sometime after, Maul's own brother became his own apprentice, Savage Opress. Number 6. Hutts. The Hutts have ruled the Outer Rim for millennia, under the guidance of the Grand Hutt Council. Not only has their wealth grown, but their political influence has risen as well. Originally, the Hutts were a typical warlike empire, willing to pick up arms against regional rivals like the Legends Imperial warlord known as Zim the Despo. But after suffering a series of great cataclysms, the Hutts birthed a famous philosophical leader who would change the entire way the empire was structured. Instead of facing threats directly and sending Hutt and slave warriors into pitched battle, Budala Hestilikamura created the idea of ruling from the shadows. The Hutts would use their money, influence, and hired hands to exert their power on the Outer Rim. In doing so, they managed to maintain their hold for thousands of years, well into the time of the Galactic Empire, when Jabba the Hutt would ultimately replace the Great Hutt Council as the sole ruler of the Hutts, in the new canon, at least. Number 5. Mandalorians. It's always tempting to think of historically warlike civilizations as noble, romantic ideals of what society should be like. When people had conflict with each other, they settled it with honor, by unsheathing their swords and dueling each other to the death. Like Exar Kun's brother-in-arms, Ulic Qel-Droma, when he took on the supreme warlord of the Mandalorians. But if I'm being completely honest here, the Mandalorians were a bunch of Viking-esque pillagers. They roamed around the galaxy in nomadic droves and massacred weaker planets. Just think about how often they fought alongside Sith Lords and anti-Jedi invaders. The Mandalorian philosophy was pretty evil in the grand scheme of things, and you really only have to look at their allegiance to the Sith Lord Exar Kun in Legends to see why. Number 4. Aberson symbiotes. As one of the last of his order, Luke Skywalker often found himself on a quest for more knowledge. What did it mean to be a Jedi? What other techniques could he learn that would help him take on Vader? Shortly after the destruction of the first Death Star, Luke Skywalker allied himself with one of Vader's personal helpers, Dr. Aphra. Along with Han, Chewie, and the rest of the rebel crew, they traveled to the planet of Katathatan. There, they discovered a planet of possessed humanoids, all hosts to symbiotes known as Abersons. These giant flea-shaped creatures more or less turned the humans, which they fed on, into high-functioning zombies. They were so dangerous that the Imperial government registered them as illegal, because once a town had become infected by them, it was guaranteed to spread around the sector. These nasty little bugs, after all, needed a near-endless supply of life to satisfy their hunger. Number 3. Yuuzhan Vong. The Yuuzhan Vong were an invasive alien species that Thrawn and Palpatine had long feared. In Legends, it was their bond over this common enemy that encouraged Palpatine to place Thrawn in such powerful positions. When the Yuuzhan Vong invaded the galaxy, they came armed with lightsaber-resistant amphistaffs, lighting explosives in the form of blast bugs and fire-breathing tank beasts. Resistant to the Force, the Yuuzhan Vong were perhaps the toughest foe the Jedi had ever faced. Their obsession with enduring pain, inflicting pain on others, and the destruction of those around them make the Yuuzhan Vong easily one of the most objectively evil creatures in all of Star Wars. Number 2. The Sith. The species of red-skinned, humanoid aliens have a long and storied history in Legends. You might be most familiar with one of the most famous Sith stories, Naga Sadow. He was one of the purebloods, a descendant of a noble Dark Jedi line that had mixed in with the native Sith of Korriban. Powerful in the Force, Sadow led a campaign against the Republic and nearly defeated the Jedi Order of the time. The Sith were also subject to the alchemy of the stronger, more powerful Force users of their species. The Massassi on Yavin 4 were modified by Nega Sadow and sported far more brutal features than the natives of Korriban. Their legacy lasted well into the New Republic, as their philosophy was the basis for the Sith Order, a sect of Force users that used the alien species name as its own. And finally, coming in at number 1, the Rakata. The Rakata are very likely the first dark side powered beings in the ancient galaxy. In Legends, they were first introduced to the Force by the traveling interstellar beings known as the Kwa. The Rakata were originally a very primitive group of beings, much taller than average humanoids and more powerful too. The Rakata didn't look too dissimilar from the Mon Calamari from Mon Cala, who would play such a crucial war in the early rebellion against the Empire. The Rakata came to prominence in Legends thousands of years before the birth of the Republic, well before the Jedi Order had actually begun its intergalactic missions of keeping the peace. At that time, they were known as the Jedi, and their base of operations was on the distant Force-sensitive planet of Tython. The Rakata, after learning the ways of the Force from the Kwa, allowed their primitive culture to influence how they would use the mystical power. Instead of rising to the occasion, they simply used the Force to further their traditions of brutal combat and killing for power. Their mastery of the dark side of the Force gave them the opportunity to build their infinite empire, a sprawling realm of 500 planets, each easily reached using hyperdrives created by the Rakata, marked the pinnacle of their power. I wonder if we'll ever see the Rakata or the Yuuzhan Vong in canon one day again, maybe in films or shows. I feel like they would be a really refreshing new villain compared to the typical, Sith that we always see. Let me know which one of these alien species was your favorite, and any ones that I didn't cover that I could include in another video list. Be sure to check out my other top 10 videos and other list videos. I have a whole playlist for you if you enjoy these kind of vids. Thanks for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, consider leaving a like. Until the next one, remember, the Force will be with you, always.